already done one assert equals to do this, okay? We've checked one edge case. But now we're going to start building it out. Now there's probably a lot of different ways we can do these test cases. So this is just one way that I immediately thought of that we can do. And this, for all I know, I'm going to get a bunch of comments saying that this is an inefficient way to test our code. And it may be. But the point is, I'm still going to achieve all of those edge cases and code coverage tests. The way I'm going to do it is I'm going to create an array of our inputs and expected output, okay? And because everything from the fine to the speed to whether it's your birthday or not, since they're all integers, and that's why I made is your birthday an integer, is it's going to be easier now because we can make an array of all three values, okay? We can do the expected output, input, and the two different inputs. So before we do that, let's just look one more time. One input is velocity, another is it your birthday, and the final one is the fine. So there's three things. Okay. So we're going to go back here, and we're going to put, we're going to create an int array. To make an array, you need to write the data type, and then your two brackets. So an array, of course, is just going to be a list of values. Okay. Not only that, guys, but inside of our array, we're going to have all of our test cases. And so I'm going to put another set of here because we're going to do what's called a multi-dimensional array. Okay. And we can give it any name we want. I'm going to call this test data. Okay. Like so. And, oh wait, I'm sorry, equals, new int, no, I'm sorry, no, I did that right. Equals, I take it back. All right, inside of test data, we're going to do a series, okay? First thing we're going to do, we want to do some code coverage, right? So the first one will be a fine of 0. Actually, let's go the other way around. Let's start with the velocity first. Let's say you're going 55. Excuse me. And it is not your birthday. The resulting fine should be 0, like so. So that's our first test that we're going to test for. I'm put a comma, hit enter, create another test. Okay. Code coverage. We want a 0 fine. We want one where we get $500 fine. So let's go ahead and say we're going 75. I'm also going to do a not your birthday. And then we're going to give a fine of 500. Okay. So the first set is we're doing code coverage. Now let's say we're going 90. I don't recommend it. And we say it's not your birthday again, just to be consistent. The expected output should be 1,000 for a fine. Okay. So this is general code coverage. Okay. And I could have picked other values. I'm just trying to cover each of our possible answers. Now you probably are going, well, wait a minute, Mr. 100 Visions guy. Why you're testing for all this stuff when you know it's not going to produce the right results? Well, that's because we're doing test-driven development. We begin with our tests, we decide everything we're going to test for first, and then we write our method to try to accomplish that. So I create our test data. Now, here's the thing, though. This is just our list of possible test cases. In fact, technically, I could have called it test case data if I wanted to. In fact, I think I will. Test cases. Like so. Yeah, I'll do test case data because I like to change my mind a lot. Now, here's what we're going to do. We're going to loop through each test case. This will be one loop. This will be another. This will be another. We're going to use a for loop to do it. Inside of our loop, inside of each loop, we're going to call this assert equals, passing it these values. So we're going to create a for loop. So as I'm coding out this for loop, I'm just going to walk you through the for loop itself in case you're not as familiar with these. In a standard traditional kind of for loop, the the counter, this is kind of counter variable called I, is representative of the fact that this is indexing. So we set the indexer, the counter, to 0, and then while I is less than the length of test case data. So I write it like this, dot length. And this will return the how long that test case data is, and I think I was supposed to do it that way. And then semicolon I plus plus, which means add 1 to I in each loop. And you know what? It wasn't that. I think it was just like that. There we go. So the loop is going to loop, in this case, 3 times. Once, so the length of the test case data happens to be 3, because there are 3 items in here. But in indexing, we always start counting at 0. It's 0-based counting, because 0 is the first integer in our series, right? So this represents the first. This is the first is 0, second is 1, third is 2. So we're looping from 0 to 2. So we're looping as long as I is less than 3. And we're adding 1 each time to I plus plus. So just to help go through here. So now what we're going to do is in our for loop, we're going to create some variables. Now we can do it one of 2 ways. I'm going to use variables in this case. So if you look here, we've got speed. I'm going to call it speed this time. Oh, we got to create what data type it is. Speed equals, and then we're going to put test case data index position I. Okay. Now this first I, and I'm just going to put a semicolon there. It's not going to like it. Okay. But this first I is the first loop at 0. Then it's 1. Then it's 2. So in the first loop, this test case data I actually represents this entire array. Well, that's not really an integer, right? It's a whole array of integers. So what we want here is actually the first item in this, which is going to be index position 0. Now, every time we loop, it's always the first item in each iteration of our loop. So that's why we put bracket 0 bracket. So that pulls from the first item of each of these as we loop through it. So we're going to do the same thing for the, is it your birthday? And it's test case data, index position I again, because that's representing the array. And now we're going to put 1 because the next item is index position 1. And then finally, we're going to have expected output. Now, I'm naming these very clear to read names. I could give it more cryptic variable names if I wanted, just to save some character spacing or whatever. And so what this happens is every time we loop, we keep changing. So the first loop, speed is 55, is birthday is 0, and then expected output is 0. The next case, the next loop through here, we go to the next one, and speed is 75, is birthday is 0, and expected output is 500. And we loop until we're at the end of our test case data. So this grabs the variables. So now we're going to do our assert equals. And instead of giving actual values, we're going to put expected output. Now you're probably guessing why I gave it a name that's readable. And then it's caught speeding to dot get ticket. And now we'll just put speed tab is birthday is already so this is called an argument, and we're sending the argument variables here. The is birthday is the same as the parameter. So we can give the same name of the parameter, or we can change it. So in one, when we're calling our test cases, we're calling it speed. In this case, it's velocity. So we go back here, and I'm going to save my changes, and now I'm going to run it. So I change it, and run it. And what we see here is that it failed. We have a one fail on here. So we got our test get ticket. We ran it, and then we have this. If you look down here, I'm going to zoom in on here. You're going to see the failure trace. This is what happened. So what happened is we expected 500, but we got 0. So you can actually tell that it actually failed on the second one. And if you want to, I believe you can do some output on here, just so you can see what's going on. So I'm going to put string output equals, and then string dot, what was I going to write on here? Format. Yeah. Format. The argument is going to be the output. Okay, so we'll put speed equals, and then I'm going to put percentage D. And then we're going to put is birthday equals percentage D, or yeah, D. And then and we'll put a little thing here. We'll put fine equals %D, like so. And then we're going to give it a series of arguments. So speed, comma, is birthday, comma, and then expected output, like so. And then we're going to do system.out print line output, like so. So now when we run our test, we should see some output before it crashes. And we do. So we get to 2 of them, and now we see it's on here that we get our failure. It fails because the find it produced, this is our expected. Oh, we didn't do the expected result, the actual results. So I didn't do the actual results, so that's a little bit more confusing. And so we'll put on here, if you want to, you could put actual result equals. Now we're going to do the caught speeding. In fact, I'm just going to copy it from here. Paste it there, like so. And does that work? And then on here, actual result. It likes it. Let's run it. And then we should probably add that onto here as well. Here, let's do a little plus sign, plus, enter. Actual result was, and then we'll put the percentage D, and we'll clean this up a little bit. Now we run it. So we see actual result was 0, actual result was 0. So here's where it hit. So now we've got some of the output. So now what we can do is we can go back in and test everything. And we can compare our results until we get it working. Now, my goal in doing this, by the way, we don't need this anymore. So our loop does it for us, okay? And then I'm really not concerned about fixing this right now, but as you can see, we've created a series of code coverage results.